This is Intoxicated Literature.
Hello, and welcome to Intoxicated Literature. This is Evelyn Crow.
And I am Daniela Drake.
And we are talking about classic epic fantasy today. We are going all the way back to, 1995?
Yeah.
I think, and this is Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb.
An oldie but a goodie.
Oh, it's so good. Oh my god.
Anyone that hasn't read this book should read it. This series is one of my favorite series of all time. I reread it at least once a year.
Oh my god. It's one of my top reads for life.
For sure.
Yeah.
Love it so much. I love to... Okay, wait, before we get into it, what are we drinking tonight?
I am drinking a wolf in lamb's clothing. Okay, they sell this at, the Kentucky Derby. So, it's like a bee's knees, so you got gin and honey and, a little bit of lemon juice, and then you top it with Lambrusco, which is a sweet Italian wine.
It makes it so dark. It looks almost purple.
It does. Look really purple. And it's not my favorite, but it's drinkable. And I've had 3 of them, and I am rocked.
Yes, this should be a very interesting episode. We will have spoilers, possibly for the entire series, so just be aware.
Look,
we try really hard. But
we what really hard?
We try. I said it.
Look, we have read the entire series multiple
times. Yeah.
So we will try to keep it to Assassin's Apprentice, but we make no promises. So we will try really hard.
This is also one of our favorite series, so yeah, I'm sorry, but if you haven't read it, please go read it because it's really, really good. And then come back and listen because we are going to ruin it for you, and I don't want to because it is just so good.
Just go read it.
We also swear like sailors.
Yes.
There's not really spicy times.
No spice in this.
So
yeah.
So it's mostly just the swearing.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, let's get into it.
I read this as a fledgling fantasy reader way back in my college days, and it stuck with me.
One of my favorite things about this is that most people don't realize, even now, that Robin Hobb is a woman.
One of my favorite things that she does is make fun of that on Twitter. It's my favorite things.
I love her so much on Twitter because she literally is just this little old woman, and she'll just be like, I'm on another top fantasy author list and they have no idea I'm a woman. Ha ha ha!
I know, it cracks me up. She'll be on the top 10 fantasy list and it's all men and it's Robin Hobb.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the way she does it is because her writing feels very gritty.
It does.
And very much in the epic fantasy vein where all these other men are playing, but she creates this world building where just seamlessly women are equal, unquestioned.
Yeah.
Right? They're soldiers, they're in high offices, nobody even thinks about it. It's not even an issue.
Again, we're going to compare to Game of Thrones just because it's popular culture and people know what that is. So if you were reading Game of Thrones, and then you read Robin Hobb and Assassin's Apprentice together, you would be like, a man wrote this. It felt the same. But guess what? A woman wrote that.
Yes. And it's just really good. And she does, this first book especially, it is slow. I will give you that. A lot of the reviews were like, this was too slow. And I'm like, it's an epic fantasy. The first book is always about world building and setting up characters, and that's kind of how it works, especially at that time in 1995.
Have you read Tolkien? Have you anyone ever read Tolkien? Because I swear to God, anybody who's read Tolkien cannot complain about how slow things fucking move.
Exactly. I'm thinking about Game of Thrones. I'm thinking about Wheel of Time. I'm thinking about all of these other...
Wheel of Time doesn't get anything done until fucking 70% in. I swear to God.
Know. Exactly. And I'm all of these, Steven Erikson, there are so many...
Steven Erikson, don't even get me started on Steven Erikson.
That's fair.
We should do one on Steven Erikson too.
We should.
We'll get all the dude bros mad at us, but we should do one in Stephen Erickson.
Every single one will be yelling at us, and it's okay. They're not our target audience, let's be real. But when you think about those authors, like, Robin Hobb fits very neatly within all of them, which is why she's always on all these, like, top 10 lists, because she has the same vibe.
She does. She really does. And it really reads. It reads male author, but it's a woman author.
And you can see it. Like, once you know and you're looking for it, you can see it for sure.
And it cracks me up because her name is Robin Hobb.
It's so generic.
And people think Robin Hood, and so they think man. And they just put her on these lists. It's just patriarchy at its best, and it cracks me up.
She thinks it's hilarious too.
Oh my God.
She knows that they think that she's a man, and she's just
even
like...
my husband was like, okay, well, I'm the worst because I thought it was a man too. I'm sorry.
It's okay, she thinks it's hilarious.
Which killed me. I literally laughed for like 15 minutes. I was like, I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, I love it. That's so good.
But, I mean, like, the world is really gritty. It is a medieval, like, it's a medieval European setting. It's 1995. What are you gonna do?
That's what you got.
Yep. So, that's the setting. But that's what it feels like. It feels gritty. It feels dirty. It feels like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, the arms master is a woman, and it's just accepted. There's going to be a queen as an heir. It's just accepted. There's no one arguing about it.
There's no sexism. It's just that is the way that things are.
The war that's happening on Game of Thrones right now with, the blacks and the greens or whatever, that would never happen in this Robin Hobb world because a queen would just rule. That's just how it is. It's totally okay. And that is what makes it great. She's feminist without saying feminism. Relax.
And I will say, like, a lot of the time, you can tell when a male author is writing a female protagonist, right?
She breasted boobily down the stairs.
Exactly. But Robin Hobb chooses to write about fit chivalry. Say
it again.
I cannot.
Fitz Chivalry Farseer is the main character.
And he is the main character. And he is a dude, right? Mm-hmm. And she writes him so well, though. Like, he feels fully formed. He feels complex. He feels real.
Yeah.
And you never question whether or not the author can write a male protagonist.
Yes. It's almost like she writes a good character.
Exactly. And like and I will say a lot of her writing is character driven. So if you're looking for a plot driven story, this probably isn't the series for you.
Yes.
There is plot.
There
for sure.
is plot.
And it definitely happens. But it is mostly about character. So if that's what you're looking for, this is definitely and for me, like, I love a character driven story. So I love her series.
Yeah.
So much. Like, I think that all of her characters are so interesting and complex and fully formed.
I will say this as warning. Because her books are so character driven, I cry once a book.
At least. For sure.
At least. So
I will also say, one of the magic systems in this is being able to talk to animals. And sometimes animals are mistreated.
Yes. However, it's not gratuitous.
No. And I will say, for me, I'm one of those people that will go online and look at doesthedogdie.com because I cannot watch a show or a movie that has a dog die.
Yes.
When my boyfriend forced me to watch John Wick, for example, I told him I will not watch it when the dog dies. He has to fast forward until after that. Like, I can't do it. I literally cannot. I can watch people die all the time. Animals, no.
Little anecdote. I gave this book to a book club of mine. And then we were formed when vaginal fantasy was a thing and Felicia Day was reading.
I miss vaginal fantasy.
I know, it was great. I loved it. But we're like, okay, let's read this book. And I'm like, this is a great epic fantasy book. And we read it. Now, part of this book is that this young boy has this animal magic. And it's kind of frowned upon. It's looked at as bad.
Yeah.
In this part of the world at the time. And he bonds with this dog named Nosy. And at the time, his caretaker, who is not his father, by the way, but who's a great man. You love this man. Burrick. Oh, God, I love him so much.
I know.
Takes the dog, Nosy, and takes him away from the boy because he was too young to bond with a dog. Which is true. Even in...
Yeah, it's not healthy for either of them.
It's not. And even in, like, places where it's okay to bond with animals in this magic way, he was too young to do this. And all you know is that the dog is gone. And everyone in my book club was like, this dog is dead. What the fuck have you done?
Yeah.
You have given me a book to read, and now this dog is dead, and I hate you so fucking much, I'm crying. I'm like, you have to read
You
to
have
the end
to
of the
read
book.
it to the end.
You have to. I would never, in my life, give you a book to read where a puppy was killed. Who are you talking to?
Literally, I'm watching Twister, and the first 5 minutes there's a dog, and I'm like, what happens to the dog?
For real, the first date I ever went on was to see Twister, and I'm like, but what about the dog? And the guy looked at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? The dad died.
But what about the dog?
I'm like, but the dog.
Same.
So if that gives you any idea into the insight to our brains, there you go.
I'm upset about the horses dying in war movies. I can't do it.
Saying, get to the end of this book, please, before you make any judgments about the dogs. And then you will sob like a little baby.
I will say, too, though, that I do feel like one of the main themes in this series is loneliness. It's something that Fitzchivalry and Shade deals with over and over again, and it is sometimes difficult to read if you're kind of in those emotions.
Yes.
So just be aware of that as well. But it's handled so well. And like a lot of times Fitz doesn't realize, like, it's so easy to dismiss people outside of yourself when you're in that kind of depressive state, and they're thinking, but I love you. Like, why are you feeling alone? I'm here for you. And like, he has to hear it to believe it in a way. So I just like be aware that that's one of those things that's happening in this book. But I think that's why I like it so much, is because it does kind of have this found family kind of vibe, which is partly what draws me to the cozy fantasy genre in general. Is a lot of those books have the found family.
Don't go hearing that and think this is a cozy fantasy.
This is not a cozy fantasy. Not at all. Not at all. Please do not be thinking this is cozy. It's not cozy. It's not cozy. Not even close.
Not even at all. You will sob your fucking eyes out at the end of this book.
100%. It's cathartic in a way.
It is.
But it's not cozy.
Not cozy.
But because it has the found family feel to it, I think that's one of the reasons I love it so much.
Yes.
And just having, I mean, you've got Fitz, you've got Burrick, you've got Molly, freaking Patience.
Oh God, Patience.
She's so sweet.
I love Patience so much.
I know. I love her so much.
And I think one of the biggest things that frustrated me the whole series is how much everyone derided Chivalry for marrying Patience.
Agreed.
But Patience was smarter than anybody ever gave her credit for.
Yeah.
She was smarter in politics than anyone ever gave her credit for.
Yes, 100%.
And she was smarter than in anything than anyone ever gave her. She just didn't give a shit.
Yeah, 100%. She didn't care what other people thought, so she just did whatever the fuck she wanted. And that's why people didn't think that she would make a good leader. Which is funny, because later in the series, not in this book necessarily, but later in the series, she ends up being the leader that everyone needs. Like, she's like, this is what needs to happen. You better fucking do what you need to do. Like,
Exactly.
And people are just going, oh, okay. Like,
Exactly.
I guess this is what we gotta do.
I mean, because she was just like, you know what? I don't care about politics. I am going to be eccentric. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. I'm going to climb trees. I'm going to scrape my knees. I'm going to build, I'm going to plant my plants, and then I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
I mean, what I found so upsetting about it is that her being, quote unquote, eccentric is just her being whimsical. Like, it's not anything else. It's just her being happy to find joy in nature, or climbing trees, or doing something silly, and that's me 100% of the time. Like,
I know.
I like to just have a good time, and yes, I'm in my 40s, but why does that mean that I can't find joy in places that maybe most adults don't? Like, that doesn't, that doesn't work for me.
Exactly.
So I've always loved her. I think she is so great. She's so sweet to Fitz when she finally becomes a part of his life. She calls him Tom, which was the name that she was going to give her son.
Fitz is the name for a bastard.
Yes.
So in this, in this universe, Fitz Chivalry Farseer is basically, you're the bastard of chivalry, and you're the Farseer name. So you are the bastard of chivalry of the King Farseer line. So for your whole life, you are going to be called the bastard of Farseer, of chivalry.
Yeah.
And so Patience was like, Jesus Christ, you're going to put that name on a child? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I know. And it's sad because it's implied. It's never said straight out, but it's implied that she's infertile. And so she looks at Fitz as the son that she never got to have. And she kind of adopts him in that way. And it's both heartbreaking and heartwarming at the same time, for both of them. Like, Fitz is like, I don't know what to do with you. And she's like, I don't know what to do with you either, but we're family, so.
That's the thing. And I think if it had been handled differently in the beginning, because Chivalry abdicated. He abdicated.
I think about that a lot. Every time I reread this series, this book especially, I think about, what the fuck are you doing, Chivalry? What the fuck are you doing? Stay where the fuck you are and just, like, own it.
Seriously.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Because his name was fucking Chivalry. So, in this fantasy
universe,
there's a power in names. And so Chivalry's name was Chivalry, right? So the idea was, he's honorable. And so he had a child out of wedlock. He had an affair. And so his response to that isn't, I will take responsibility of this kid, which seems like the response that would be like what you would do.
The adult thing to do.
Instead, he just goes, oh, shit. Abdicates the throne and runs away.
Yeah, basically.
Which seems really kind of shitty.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that as well.
And
I think it every time I reread it,
yeah.
actually. Yeah.
So, Fitz never sees his dad. He never meets his dad. He has no idea what kind of person his dad is at all. He has no contact with his dad. In this, I kind of identify with Fitz Chivalry.
Yeah.
This whole abandonment issue that he has with Chivalry. And so he has a lot of different father figures throughout the years. He has Burrick, who is amazing. We love Burrick. Who
raises him the best of his ability.
And Burrick isn't perfect, but he tries real hard. There's the king,
Shrewd,
who's sick and old.
I did have an issue. And even when I reread the books, I have this issue because his name is literally Shrewd, but I feel like he's really not that smart.
I think he was once, but he's old and being influenced.
Yeah. By the time you meet him, he is quite old.
He's old and he's being influenced and drugged. And I think that affects his mind more than he's willing to admit.
That's true too. Yeah, for sure.
But he's also in pain.
Yeah.
And pain can affect you in ways
For
that
sure.
people don't want to admit.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. For sure. Yeah. I will say, of all the names in this series, I feel like Regal is the least accurate.
I don't know.
Really?
I mean, if you think of Regal,
Yeah.
does it mean honest?
No, not necessarily.
Does it mean... What does it mean when you think Regal?
I mean, I do think that you're held to a higher standard.
Do you? Or do you just see gold and a kind of a laminate of a king?
I mean, for me, I definitely think you're held to a higher standard, but I can understand how that's not true for everyone. Because he's the fucking worst.
Because I think of, like, Versailles, where you have, like, a gold glittering...
Everything is shiny.
Yes, but not
it's all surface level.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see how that's true. And I'm sure that that's what Robin Hobb was going for. Because, man, Regal and his little pal Galen.
God, Galen. Fuck Galen to the deepest pits of hell.
Yeah, I think Galen is the worst, for sure. Because he literally breaks Fitz's ability to use the skill. Like, he literally stops him from being capable of skill, like, at all.
For his entire life.
He's a terrible person.
Absolutely 100% terrible person.
And it makes me upset because Galen was the name of someone I had a crush on in high school. Not high school, in elementary school.
You knew a Galen in elementary school?
Yes, we were rivals. He doesn't know that we were rivals, but we were definitely rivals because he was a good writer and I was a good writer, but he was a better writer and it pissed me off. He came up with a very cool phrase called Yippee Skippy, and I was like, how am I supposed to come up with a better phrase than that?
Galen's gonna hear this and be like, oh my god.
He's not gonna know who the fuck I am. It's gonna be hilarious.
I thought of Yippee Skippy.
But yeah, that was like, I really admired his writing, and it pissed me off at the same time. So when I read this book, every time I think of him. So, yes. Anyway. But let's talk about my other favorite character in this book that we get introduced to, which is the Fool. Because this was 1995. This was before the real trans movement happened.
I didn't know about... Okay, so there are two books that really made a difference in my, like, formative years. There's this book, and then there is Kushil's Dirt.
Yes.
So this book introduced me to the idea of trans characters, period. And Kushil's Dirt introduced me to the idea of you can love anyone, and it's completely okay.
Yep.
Also BDSM.
A little bit, yes.
That's a whole different topic.
Yes.
But so we have the Fool. And the Fool is a character, we do not know their gender.
It's very unclear. Like, we think that he introduces himself as he.
Yes.
In this book.
Yes.
But in another series, there is she.
And their name is Amber.
And they're living as a woman. So, we really don't know. They're very gender fluid.
And when Fitz Chivalry asks, they're just like, does it matter?
Exactly. Like,
it doesn't matter what I am.
Commit to a gender, which is, they're right.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
And so I remember reading this just going, what?
Yeah, this was the first series I ever read that had a character like this.
And it was presented just as a normal...
No one questioned it.
No one questioned it at all. It was completely accepted. And it was wonderful.
Yeah, I loved it. Actually, the Fool is one of my favorite characters of all time, just because they're so smart and so caring and just fascinating. Like, as a character.
They are.
Yeah.
They really, really are. And there's so many books where the queer character or the, they're always like the gay best friend. Or they're killed off before the end of the book. And a lot of bad things happen to the Fool, don't get me wrong. But a lot of bad things happen to Fitz, too. It's not like...
Oh, Fitz's life is not easy.
Huge.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely not. That's why we cry every time we read a book.
Every fucking time. Every time. So it feels pretty even-handed, actually.
Agreed.
If you weigh it out.
Yeah.
And they're tied together. They go together hand in hand. I will say it's rather sad because the Fool is in love with Fitz.
For sure. Yes.
And Fitz is never going to love the Fool back.
Not in the way the Fool wants, but Fitz does love the Fool as family.
Yes. I mean, the Fool would kill or die for the Fool.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. Fitz would die for or kill for the Fool. Yes. For sure.
But no, would never marry them. Would never.
No.
Does not feel romantic love.
No.
For the Fool.
No. And even he acknowledges that that's something that the Fool wants, but he's not capable of giving. But he's okay. Like, he makes his peace with it. Like, he does struggle with it at first, but he makes his peace with it. And he's like, you know what? That's okay. I still love them.
Well, and he also, I think it's book 3. Getting ahead of himself. He struggles with the idea of the gender fluidity. Or, like, just, like, not knowing the gender. Period. And he does struggle with that. Because he grew up in a very gender binary world.
Yes, for sure.
There are men and there are girls. That's like how it works. And the Fool's like, does it matter? Why does it matter what parts I have? It doesn't. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And, I mean, they have a whole conversation. And Fitz is finally like, you know what? It doesn't. It really doesn't. Because you are who you are. No matter what is under your clothes.
Exactly. And I love you anyway. And it's very sweet.
It is very sweet. And very powerful.
Yes, for sure. But that's not in this book.
It's not. But at the same time, though, this whole series is, it is part of it.
It is, for sure. And that is why I recommend it to so many people. It's so good. The characters are so complex, and they're so different, and it's just not like anything that was written during this time period. So, like, I was in middle school when these books came out, man. And I think I read the first one as a senior in high school. And it was just so different from anything I had read before.
Yeah.
Because the world building, you can tell the world building is a priority for Robin Hobb. Like, she makes it a priority. She wants you to feel immersed in this place.
And you do.
And you do. Absolutely. 100%.
Like, it's one of those books where you've, like, even the series, like, you finish reading it and you're just like, oh, I can't read anything else for just a bit because I am totally in that world.
Yes, it is an immediate book hangover. It's so good! Like, I just want everyone to read it because it is so different and good and
it's like, but, like, the magic system, there's several.
Yes.
So we have the animal magic that we talked about with Dear Nosy as the puppy. I will just say this. We don't deserve dogs.
I fucking love dogs, and this book makes me confirm it every day.
Every time I reread it. We don't deserve dogs. Dogs are wonderful and amazing, and we don't deserve them, and I just will say that forever. We don't deserve them. And I know that it seems like Nosy dies in the beginning of the book, but he doesn't. So just keep reading. Promise. I can't promise that at the end.
I know.
But it's actually like a happy thing at the end.
It's bittersweet, for sure.
It's bittersweet. So just keep going.
And it's worth it.
You will cry.
I mean, this is the thing, is I will not watch a show, read a book, watch a movie that has a dog die, because I am traumatized when that happens. I have reread this series multiple times. Like, so many times.
That's the thing, is like that book club that I gave this book to, this one person finally read to the end of the book, and they're just like, oh my god, Nosy came back. And then they're crying because they're like, Nosy came back and he saved Fitz. And they're just like,
oh my god. I will say, the end of this book, the last, I would say, like, 30%, so intense.
You're running. It is running.
You're running. Sprinting. And it is kind of hard to read, but also, like, satisfying.
Yes.
Like, it's so good. I sob every time. And you're right there with Fitz, because it's all, like, from his perspective. You're in his head, basically, and you're thinking all the things that he's thinking. So when you realize that Regal has set you up, and he's like, oh, you're here to kill, the brother, and Katrikin is like, why would you kill my brother? And he's like, well, wait a minute, what's happening? I don't want to kill anyone. Why would I do that? Like,
I wasn't supposed to do that. What's going on?
I don't wanna.
You drank the wine, motherfucker! And then, wait, I drank that wine. God damn it! And just everything is happening. And then all of a sudden you're yelling in a book, and then you're crying, and then you're crying more, and then Nosy is there, and you are crying even more, and it's
ugly crying.
It is ugly snot. There's snot happening.
It's bad.
Nuts.
It's bad, but good. It's so good.
It is one of the most, like, fulfilling endings.
Yes.
In a book.
Absolutely. And then you cannot wait to get to the second book. Like, you just cannot wait to read the next one, because you have to know what happens. I mean,
like Verity is talking through a person to somebody else and be like, I will see you when you get back to the, wherever. And then it's like, the end. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
This is the end?
Fucking Verity. I love him so much.
God, Verity is amazing.
So good.
Look. If I could marry a fictional person,
it would be Verity. For sure. 100%.
I think I did marry Verity.
You did?
I think
kind of.
Verity.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I could see that. That's fair. I mean, if I had to say that he was a fictional character, I think
he's closest to
Verity's
Verity.
Pretty accurate.
Yeah. Uh-huh. But yeah, I mean, like, for real.
So good. It's just such a good book. I just love it so much. And every time I get a friend to read it, I feel so satisfied.
No, for real. If any of you read this book because of what we're saying right now, you have to tell us.
Please tell us that you read it. Even if you didn't like it, please tell us that you read it.
I know. Just say you read it because we were just ranting about how good it was.
There are a lot of books. So this one is the first in a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 3 more. And then there are 3 that are part of a different trilogy. And then there are 3 more.
Okay, so here's the thing. There's 3 books. 3 original books of the Assassin trilogy.
And this one starts them.
Mm-hmm. Then there's the Magic Ship trilogy, which is like a different place, and Fitz Chivalry is not part of that. It's a whole separate area. And I will tell you a secret: people who like the Magic Ship trilogy don't tend to like the Assassin Apprentice trilogy, and vice versa. So do with that as you will, whatever. But you do not have to read the Magic Ship trilogy to enjoy the Assassin trilogy.
Absolutely not.
It's just more backstory.
Exactly. It's just more in that universe.
Yes. You do meet some of the characters later. They do appear, but it's not necessary. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like, oh, I know these people. I read that series. Kind of thing. It's like, oh, Easter egg. Yeah. Then there is the second trilogy of the Assassin trilogy.
The Tawny Man? Is that right?
Tawny Man, yes. I think Tawny Man. And then there's a third trilogy.
Yes.
So I think there's 9 books total in the Assassin Fitz Chivalry story.
And it does follow Fitz Chivalry through his life. So by the end, he is old. And not in a great health. I do want to talk a little bit about Chade.
Chade and Molly.
So Chade is his mentor. He teaches him how to be an assassin. Mm-hmm. And it's actually really funny to me because in this book especially, Chade talks about how he likes being in the shadows and how he likes kind of controlling things from behind the scenes. But even in this book, you kind of feel like that might not be 100%.
He is such a showboat, even in this book. Like, even the things he does to, like, at the end, with, like, the torches, like, I mean, it's like, dude, you are a showman. You've always been a showman.
And he desperately wants to be part of the court, but he can't because he's illegitimate and has been trained as an assassin, which is what the Farseers have done with illegitimate children. So you see this kind of heritage that Fitzchivalry has been born into, which is not fair.
No. But
also makes sense in this world. So you're kind of like, no, I mean, what else are they gonna do with you? Like, they don't want a loose end that could then claim the crown if they needed to or whatever. Like, it makes sense that they would have you kind of in this role that's near the crown, but also separate from it.
I mean, it's actually a really good thing to do with a bastard child, and it makes a lot of sense. And I actually am surprised that more fantasy books don't have bastard children be assassins. I mean, it's really fucking genius.
Robin Hobb kind of stumbled onto something that hasn't really been explored much, which I feel is a lack. Like, why aren't there more bastard children that are just raised to be assassins?
I mean, think about it. You can send them off, and they can be diplomats, and then they can just quietly kill somebody in the middle of the night, and then go home.
Exactly.
And they have diplomatic immunity.
And you train them to read, you train them to write. Like, they've got the education of a royal, basically.
They are royalty. They have diplomatic immunity. They can literally kill with impunity. Why can't they be fucking assassins?
Exactly! But going back to Shade specifically, because I remember thinking, like, so, again, you're kind of reading from Fitz's perspective. So it's a little bit of that unreliable narrator thing that we've talked about a few times. But you're impressed with Shade. Like, everyone, like, when you first meet him, you're like, wow, this person is so impressive. Like, he's scary. He's, like, a little bit, like, strange.
He's like a mad scientist behind the walls.
Exactly. He lives in the walls of the keep. Like, you're just like, what is
to
this
a
guy
child,
doing?
He's literally just like, oh.
Exactly. And so as a reader, you're thinking the same thing. You're like, what is this guy doing? And eventually you kind of start to go, no, but seriously, what is this guy doing? Like, what is going on here? How long has he been living in the walls? Like, this is not normal. This is not okay. I don't think he's well. And it's a little bit upsetting because he kind of becomes Fitz's father figure in a lot of ways. And I'm not sure that he is the healthiest father figure for Fitz to choose. Like, I'm not saying he is very smart. Mm-hmm. He is very good at what he does. But he's also a little bit crazy. Yeah. And a little bit drunk on power. Yeah. And makes you not like him very much. Even in the first book, I feel like you're kind of like, oh, I don't know about you. You know? Especially when you have him contrasted with Burek or even Patience. Mm-hmm. Where Patience is trying desperately to be a mother figure to Fitz. Like, she wants to be a part of his life. She wants to help him become the best version of himself that he can be. She might think that might be a bit different version than he does, but, you know, she's there for whatever, so...
And she would never do anything that would put Fitz in direct danger.
Never! She would actively work to keep him out of danger.
Whereas Shade is like, okay, you're gonna go into direct danger now.
Yeah.
Because that is what your job is, and that is what my job is to put you in direct danger now.
And Fitz just kind of shrugs and says, okay, that's the job, so fine.
But Galen, in and of itself, is a whole other issue.
No, he literally imprints with the skill that Fitz is incapable of using his power. Like, he literally can't learn how to use it now. And he tries to get him to commit suicide. Like, he literally tries to get him to throw himself, and it's only because he has this other kind of magic that he's able to stop himself. And it's because the dog is like, I don't think you should do that. I think you should come back and snuggle with me.
No, it was even worse than that. It was like, but I love you.
That's right. Why would you do that?
I love you. Why don't you? But I love you. Come snuggle with me.
Oh my god.
I'm telling you, we don't deserve dogs.
Every fucking book.
It was this fucking dog. It was this puppy who was just going, I love you, and I don't want you to die.
That's exactly right. That is exactly what happens.
And I just, your heart is literally torn from your chest, and Fitz is just going, oh my god.
I can't do this. Yeah.
You're right.
But that's the only reason that Galen isn't successful. Yeah. Like, if Fitz didn't have the wit, he would have killed himself. Because Galen forced that thought into his brain. Which is
we don't
crazy.
Deserve dogs.
I know.
Nosy and his little puppy and the whole thing, and it's just like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
Then we have Molly. So Molly is a love interest throughout the entire series. So here's the thing. Fitzgerald is a one-trick pony. He fell in love, and that was it for him. Like, literally, that was it for him.
Had no other thought for any other girl, ever.
Ever. He did I think he did once sleep with one other person.
Maybe?
It was a hedge witch.
Yes. Yeah.
But it was literally just sex. But yeah, he had one person. I mean, so I guess in that he was a wolf.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But Molly was the daughter of a chandler, as they called it, candlemaker. She did the best she fucking could.
Absolutely.
I loved Molly.
She was very practical, very down to earth, very grounded.
I loved her. And I think she did the best she fucking could, and I had no problems with her when she said, she looked right at Fitzgerald and went, fuck you. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Because what was she gonna do?
Well, even Patience, like, when because Patience took Molly on as a maid in this book. And Fitz doesn't treat her very well. And even Patience is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You're supposed to love this girl and you're just gonna treat her like this? Like, no! Like, I'm not having it!
There was no promise of marriage. There was no promise of anything else. It was literally just like, I am horny.
Exactly. And even Patience at that point was just like, I'm done with you. Like, this is not
and
okay.
And so it's no wonder when, shit happens, as shit does, when you're fucking horny and you're not taking any precautions. And Molly was just like, I don't trust you to do the responsible thing, so I'm out of here. Bye. So she leaves. And of course, Chivalry is like, what?
I know. He is kind of dopey sometimes.
He is so dopey.
And other times he's like too emo.
God, he's so emo.
There are some books in this series where I just want to shake him and be like,
some of it is because of things that happen in the books. And you have to forgive him for that. And some of it
is also drug dependency. He is using drugs to help him be more healthy, which unfortunately takes a toll on his mental health.
So, yes, you have to take that into account.
But it is also hard to read.
But at the same time, you just want to be like, dude.
Yeah. But that's later in the series. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
So she leaves. And then he has, like, all these skill dreams about her. And then he's just moping about how, like, she's living this life without him. And I'm like, dude.
Yeah. He mopes a lot, unfortunately.
Dude.
But he's also a teenage boy,
God,
so I guess that makes sense.
Dude.
Also, can we talk about Katrikin for a minute?
Oh God, she's amazing. I love her.
She's amazing and I love her. She's literally 18 years old when we meet her, right? She's so young.
She tricks Chivalry and, like, practically poisons him right out the gate.
Yep.
Right out the fucking gate.
Because she thinks she's saving her brother's life.
because Regal's a fucking snake. So,
Doesn't
doesn't
work.
work. But like, at the same time, it's like, dude, like, you just met this guy, and you're already poisoning him, like, right out the gate.
But the thing that really stood out to me was this kind of, the way that Robin Hobb sets it up is, in the mountains, the leaders are trained, literally from birth, like, your job, when you inherit this throne, is to serve the people.
Yes.
Right? And especially right now, because we're in the United States, we have an election coming up, like, we're thinking about what it means to be in power, and what your job means, and what your responsibilities are. And so reading this book right now has a different meaning for me than it has in the past, because that idea of being a quote-unquote public servant, I think, is kind of lost right now.
It was interesting, too, because you read it, and when they get to the mountains, and everyone, all the nobles are like, oh, we can't get to the palace, it's too high, and we don't know when to get there, and our carts won't go, and all these people come out of the palace to take them up. Those aren't peasants, those aren't servants, those are lords, those are ladies, those are the king and queen themselves to help them carry them to the palace, because they're servants themselves. And when Fitz learned this, Fitz was like embarrassed. He was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
What? Who? Because then he realized that Kettrick's, like, mom carried him up the mountain. Exactly. And that was mortifying.
Well, and that's a testament to Fitz's
Yes.
character, because he obviously also sees himself as a public servant. Like, he is there for the people of the Six Duchies. Like, that is his role. And even though he works from the shadows, like, he still sees himself as someone who is working for the people. And this is something that I don't think a lot of the other Six Duchies people really sees. They don't really value.
Look at Regal. Regal took it as his due to be carried up by whoever.
It's more about how people view you, perception, and, like, it's all surface level for him, which is unfortunate. But I feel like reading it now, especially, like, it really resonated in a different way than it has even before. Just because thinking about government as something that is for the people instead of, you know, corporations or what, like, rich people. like it's a very interesting thing to see in a series that was written in 1995. Something that we've been dealing with for a very long time, and will continue to deal with, I'm sure, for longer. But it really stuck out to me this time, because I just remember thinking, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The juxtaposition between the mountain folk idea of what a ruler means with the Six Duchies.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I love Kettrick. I think she is phenomenal, amazing, one of my favorite characters, total badass, very smart, amazing.
Absolutely.
Love her.
Go read this book. Just go read this book. Go read the whole fucking
Just
series.
go read it. Read the whole series.
There's so much complexity. It's just...
It's so good. Like, and I will admit that the first one is a little bit slow, but my god, it picks up so fast. And it's worth it.
Yes!
And, like, the last one came out not even that long ago. I want to say, like, 7 years?
Yeah, I say that, but I'm like, is it 10 years ago?
Was it 10 years? I don't think it was that long ago.
I hope not.
I want to say 7 or
That's
8,
so
but I would have to look it up. I know, I would have to look it up. But, still, so good.
Indeed. Okay, so what are we reading next?
Next, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna read Lord of the Fading Lands by C.L. Wilson. This is about cat dragons.
Cat dragons and fae.
Cat
Fairy elves?
I can't remember. I have to I haven't read it since Vaginal Fantasy.
Oh my god.
So
no, this is one of those books Okay, y'all, I started reading this book, and then I was like, what the fuck am I reading? And then I couldn't stop reading it.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah.
So, it's amazing.
I read the entire series.
The whole series!
I
I could not stop reading any of it.
Yeah. So, this should be very interesting. I can't wait to talk about
Cat
it. And
Dragons.
Cat dragons! So, we'll see you next time. I am Danielle.
And I'm Evelyne Crow.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Intoxicated Literature. Drink well, friends.